What if the person you fear the most lives inside you? What if the very qualities you condemn in others, the anger, the envy, the selfishness, are in fact hidden within your own soul, quietly shaping every decision you make? Carl Jung called this hidden dimension the shadow. It is not evil. It is not something foreign. It is you, the part of you that you've buried, repressed, and denied. The shadow is the forgotten twin of your conscious self, the mirror you refuse to look into. And here's the paradox. The more you deny it, the stronger it becomes. The more you run, the closer it follows. Like a dream you cannot wake from, the shadow whispers in your relationships, sabotages your goals, and hides inside the masks you wear every day. But what if instead of running from this darkness, you could turn toward it? What if the path to freedom, creativity, and authenticity begins not with rejecting the shadow, but with embracing it? This is the hidden key Jung left for us. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the gatekeeper to your wholeness. By entering this forbidden room within yourself, you don't become darker, you become brighter. You don't lose yourself, you finally discover who you truly are. So let me ask you again, are you ready to face the part of yourself you've always avoided? Because once you see your shadow, you will never see yourself the same way again. Carl Jung once said, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." To understand shadow work is to understand this hidden reality within you. But what does shadow truly mean? The shadow in Jungian psychology is the collection of traits, impulses, and desires that your conscious mind refuses to accept. When you were a child, you expressed everything: anger, joy, fear, selfishness, tenderness. But as you grew, society, family, and culture told you, this is good, that is bad, this is acceptable, that is shameful. Slowly, you pushed away pieces of yourself. You buried them in the unconscious. These exiled fragments became your shadow. Why does this matter today? Because the shadow doesn't disappear. It doesn't vanish just because you suppress it. Instead, it leaks into your life in disguised forms, projections, triggers, emotional reactions you cannot control. Think of the times you overreacted, when someone's small action felt like a personal attack. Think of the qualities you despise most in others. Often, those are signals of your own shadow crying for recognition. In modern life, we like to curate our identities. We build polished versions of ourselves on social media, in relationships, at work. But the cost of ignoring the shadow is heavy. Hidden anger, secret envy, unfulfilled creativity, unexplored passions. The very energy you repress doesn't just disappear, it festers. Shadow work is the practice of meeting these lost parts again. It is the radical act of shining light on what you've hidden. It is not easy, and it is not comfortable. But here lies the paradox. Inside the shadow, we discover gold. Jung believed that your repressed darkness often hides your greatest potential. Your sensitivity, your creativity, your assertiveness, all might be locked away in the shadow, waiting for you to claim them. So when we talk about shadow work, we are not speaking of fighting evil. We are speaking of reconciliation. It is the art of turning toward what you fear in yourself and realizing, this too is me. And in that realization, a new life begins. Imagine a grand old mansion, a house you've lived in your entire life. Some rooms are bright, decorated with sunlight and laughter. You invite friends into those spaces, proud to show them off. But there is one room, at the far end of a hallway, that you've kept locked for years. You rarely think about it. You avoid the hallway entirely. And yet, in the quiet of night, you sometimes hear whispers from behind the door, strange movements, echoes of forgotten memories. The room is not empty. It is full of everything you chose not to face. This is the metaphor of the shadow. Jung often spoke of the unconscious as a vast landscape, a psychic house. The shadow is that locked room. Inside are the emotions you buried, the desires you denied, the traits you swore were not yours. Perhaps it is your anger, your envy, your pride. Or perhaps, more surprisingly, it is your creativity, your power, your courage qualities you once rejected because others told you they were too much. Now imagine one day you finally find the courage to open that door. Dust fills the air. The room is cluttered, overwhelming. At first it feels terrifying. You want to shut it again. But as your eyes adjust, you realize, yes, there are shadows, but there are also treasures. Forgotten paintings, tools, books, symbols of your potential, waiting in the dark. The shadow is not a monster under the bed. It is the storage room of the soul. The longer it remains locked, the heavier the burden becomes. But when you open it, when you allow light to enter, you discover that the things you feared are not as frightening as you imagined. They are simply parts of you asking to return home. This is why shadow work is so vital. It is the journey of unlocking the forbidden room. It is about cleaning, reclaiming, and integrating what was once abandoned. The paradox is clear. The very darkness you avoid may hold the brightest gold of your being. The shadow rarely announces itself openly. It speaks in symbols, in triggers, in patterns we cannot explain. If you want to recognize your own shadow, start here. Number 1. The qualities you despise most in others. Have you noticed how certain people irritate you instantly? Maybe it's their arrogance, their selfishness, or their constant need for attention. Jung explained this as projection. We see in others what we cannot bear to see in ourselves. If arrogance enrages you, perhaps you've buried your own desire for recognition. If selfishness disgusts you, maybe you've repressed your need to set boundaries. What we reject in ourselves, we exaggerate in others. The shadow points to us by reflecting in the mirror of our relationships. What if the very person you can't stand is actually carrying the part of you that you've exiled? Number 2. Emotional overreactions you can't control. The shadow reveals itself in sudden storms. A casual remark feels like a personal attack. A small mistake triggers shame or rage. These reactions are rarely about the present moment. They are echoes of repressed emotions. Jung called this complexes, pockets of unresolved energy that hijack our responses. When your reaction feels larger than the situation, your shadow is likely speaking. Your shadow is not subtle. It screams through the intensity of your emotions. Are you listening? Number 3. The mask you wear to be good. Every person develops a persona, the social mask designed to fit in, to be accepted. But the brighter the mask, the darker the shadow behind it. The person who always seems endlessly kind may be repressing anger. The one who projects total confidence may be hiding insecurity. The shadow grows in proportion to the mask you polish for the world. The more you cling to being perfect, the more your repressed parts demand attention. The mask you wear to be loved may be the very thing that hides the self you need to love most. Recognizing these 3 signs is the first doorway. Projection, overreaction, and masks are not flaws to eliminate. They are invitations. Each one is a signal pointing back to the shadow, to the forgotten room inside your mansion, asking to be opened. Number 4. The dreams that disturb you. Our unconscious speaks through dreams, and often the figures that frighten us most carry the face of the shadow. Nightmares of being chased, attacked, or overwhelmed are rarely literal. They are symbolic reflections of the parts of yourself you are avoiding. Jung believed dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, and within their images, the shadow demands attention. What you refuse to see in daylight returns to you in the language of night. Number 5. The desires you secretly suppress. Many people believe the shadow only holds negativity, anger, jealousy, aggression, but it also hides forbidden light. Perhaps you secretly long to speak boldly, to create art, to live passionately, yet you silence yourself for fear of rejection. These suppressed desires grow restless. They leak out in fantasies, envy of those who dare to live freely, or dissatisfaction with your own life. The shadow is not just the dark you fear. It is also the fire you've been too afraid to ignite. Number 6. The patterns you keep repeating. Have you noticed how the same lessons seem to return again and again? The same type of relationship that breaks your heart. The same conflicts at work. The same inner voice that sabotages success. These recurring patterns are not accidents. They are the shadow's way of calling you back. Until you face what is buried, you are destined to repeat it. Life becomes a mirror, reflecting the inner battle you refuse to resolve. The shadow is patient. It waits in your dreams, in your secret longings, in the endless repetition of your struggles. And it will keep knocking until you finally turn inward. Recognition is the first act of liberation. Number 7, the courage to acknowledge. The first step of integration is radical honesty. To admit, yes, this anger belongs to me. Yes, this envy is mine. Yes, I long for things I've denied. The shadow loses its destructive power the moment it is named. What once hid in darkness shrinks under the light of awareness. Jung taught that we do not become whole by chasing perfection, but by embracing our contradictions. Acknowledgement transforms the shadow from an enemy into a teacher. Number 8, dialogue with the inner other. Integration does not mean indulging every impulse, nor erasing what we dislike. It means creating dialogue. When jealousy arises, you ask, "What do you want me to learn?" When anger burns, you ask, "What boundary have I ignored?" By listening, you realize the shadow is not chaos, it is communication. Every uncomfortable emotion carries a message. By hearing it instead of repressing it, you begin the work of harmony. Number 9, living the wholeness. The final step is practice. Shadow work is not a one-time revelation. It is a lifelong relationship with yourself. Every trigger, every dream, every conflict becomes an invitation to wholeness. When you integrate the shadow, you no longer split yourself into light and dark. You stand as a complete being, human, flawed, radiant. The shadow does not disappear. It becomes a companion, a guide, reminding you that authenticity is more powerful than perfection. Integration is not about defeating the shadow. It is about remembering that your hidden self has always been waiting for your embrace. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This statement reveals the essence of shadow work. True growth does not come from chasing only what is bright, pure, and acceptable. It comes from facing the parts of ourselves that disturb us, the parts we would rather hide. Our culture often teaches us to avoid discomfort, to mask pain with entertainment, to silence anger with politeness, to bury fear beneath ambition. Yet Jung reminds us, what we repress does not vanish. It waits. And the longer it waits, the more distorted it becomes. The unconscious will not be ignored. It returns in symptoms, in projections, in the struggles that repeat across our lives. But what happens when we turn toward the shadow with humility instead of fear? We realize that the shadow is not an enemy, but a paradox. It is both wound and medicine, both darkness and seed of light. The very things we hide can become the foundation of our strength. To integrate the shadow is to live in wholeness. It means you no longer split your humanity into acceptable and unacceptable. You recognize that every quality, pride and humility, anger and kindness, selfishness and generosity belongs to the same psyche. To be whole is to hold both opposites without denial. This is why Jung's psychology is more than theory. It is a philosophy of life. It tells us that wholeness requires courage, and that the light we seek will never be found by avoiding the dark. To meet the shadow is to meet yourself. And in that meeting, you discover that what you feared most was never a monster at all. It was your own unlived life, waiting for your return. The journey of shadow work is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming whole. From the first moment you recognized your projections, to the courage of facing your hidden emotions, to the practice of dialogue with your inner self, you have walked the path Jung envisioned. The path from darkness to awareness, to integration, to wholeness. When you step into your shadow, you do not lose yourself. You find the pieces that were missing. You reclaim your power, your creativity, your authenticity. You realize that what you once feared as darkness was always a doorway into greater light. The shadow is not the end of you, it is the beginning of your true life. So, the invitation is simple. Do not turn away from what unsettles you inside. Lean closer, listen, ask what it wants to teach you. Because every shadow hides a gift. Every repressed emotion conceals a fragment of your soul that longs to return. Integration is not perfection. It is honesty. It is courage. It is love for the whole of who you are. This is the meaning of Jung's shadow. It is not a curse, but a compass. It points you back to yourself. And if you accept the invitation, you step into a life that is not fragmented, not divided, but whole, alive, real. If this message resonates with you, Share your reflections in the comments. How has your shadow shown itself in your life? What lessons has it tried to teach you? And if you want to keep exploring these depths with us, subscribe to this channel. Join the journey from shadow to self, from hidden to whole.